Welcome to the 300 Seconds on Agency Growth podcast. I'm Patrick Ryan, and today I'm joined by Ali Reid, who's the Chief Growth Officer at Brainlabs. Welcome, Ali.
Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be on the podcast.
Thank you for joining us. So I'm going to get straight into it. You've been in the industry a while now. You've done growth roles when you were at Essence. You were top 5 agency CEO when you were at PhD. And now you're the Chief Growth Officer at Brainlabs. So how have you found that leap going from holdco into indie, and a specialist indie at that?
It's been super exciting, really fresh. I was thinking about how to describe this because I've worked at a digital performance agency before. So I was at Essence before the merger with Mediacom a few years ago, and was, like you said, the growth chief there. And there was a lot of innovation, a lot of exciting things that were happening there. And so I kind of thought it would be similar, but it really isn't. Brainlabs is a completely different entity, even though it sort of has a lot of the same hallmarks as Essence, and obviously is super different from PhD, very different proposition, different kinds of people, and different products for clients. So although I thought it was going to be an easy ride, it's been super challenging, but in all the right ways.
Yeah.
I think after leading, as a CEO, a top 5 media agency, having the shift into an indie, a slightly smaller agency, a different proposition, I thought there was going to be some challenges, but actually it's been thrilling. I've really loved it.
I know you and I have talked that through our career, we always have those highlights of those moments, and Essence was one of yours. Does it slightly feel like you're coming home to a place that's just not constrained by structures and layers, and you can just get stuff done?
It's exactly that. The structures and layers are important in the right places, I think, especially if you're working in a big holdco that's needed for some of the bigger clients. But what has been really refreshing is the agility, getting shit done, moving at the pace of media, especially at the moment with everything that's happening in the landscape around AI and agentic workflows. We are really rebuilding an agency around AI, not just sort of bolting it on. And that's really exciting for me, learning new things, having the ability to tear things up, start again, and create things that really matter to clients, matter to our people. And it's super fun as well. So not always being encumbered with some of those more political moments or decision making, or this is the way it's always been done, so we have to kind of slowly change or try and change it in a way that makes everybody happy. This is about making clients happy and making clients grow. And we are a very young agency, very vibrant agency, and it is really exciting to be at the front of that right now.
So I can imagine they keep you on your toes.
They do.
They do. At 300, we always talk about building growth as a capability rather than a set of one-off tactics or initiatives. How have you found it to be to try and enact that at Brainlabs rather than growth just sitting in a team on its own?
So when I first arrived at Brainlabs, I was pleasantly surprised that I had a team of 9 people.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm working together at PhD.
Didn't have that holdco. Yeah.
No, and that's what I think is quite interesting. There's a responsibility on everybody in the agency to deliver growth, because we are very much tied to those cycles around making sure that we're delivering the growth back to our backers, but also to our clients, obviously. So everybody has a sales mindset, and the team is a bit bigger, and we work on a lot more pitches. I remember when I first arrived and my boss put up a slide saying that we did, I think it was 70 pitches last year, and that's a typo. There's a zero on there that shouldn't be there. But the kinds of pitches that we go for are much faster, usually much kind of in the shorter cycle, but also much more kind of capability led. So we do a lot of pitches which are search only or SEO only or retail only. And actually that means that all parts of the agency are involved, especially when you have a higher volume. So everybody feels like we're always pushing together in service of growth, not just for our clients, but also for ourselves, because we know that we're all remunerated and we're all part of this in a way that allows it to pay back to us as well if we're successful. That level of accountability is really important. And the size of the team just reflects the amount of work that we're doing and the volume of pitches that we're involved in. Now, we don't always get to see those in campaign or the headlines. It's not those kinds of pitches, and that's okay. I think in an indie world, we're absolutely fine with driving that revenue without having the sort of star logos. We do work with big clients as well, but making sure that growth is coming from all the different parts of the client ecosystem across SMBs, B2C, D2C, etc. There's lots of different opportunities for growth that I don't think the holdcos potentially always take advantage of.
Absolutely. So I believe you've been there just over 12 months now, and we've discussed, you've done a lot of different things. You've looked at your proposition, you've looked at your prospecting, the way that you pitch. Getting that type of internal alignment must be a big challenge to do stuff new. Can you sort of talk about what the journey has been like a bit?
I think I'll start with myself first before trying to align everybody else. I had to dispel my own understanding and hardwiring on what it was to pitch because of those timelines that were super fast, because of the kinds of products that we were pitching. So kind of making sure that I wasn't bringing just my old ways into Brainlabs, but also really absorbing all of their amazing different ways of approaching growth, and then marrying the two was really important. So a moment of kind of listening and absorbing. The sort of second thing was then to move on to my team, a big team as we talked about. I would say they worked quite almost, I talked about them as lone wolves, all going off in these different directions, and actually building a team where we now talk about super selling, where we have at least 2 or 3 people working together in a really tight sell, having that entrepreneurship, having that accountability and ownership of their pitches, but being much more able to support each other. And then finally kind of moving it more broadly out into the rest of the agency, but setting a really clear vision. I think one of the things when you are in an indie and when you are taking on that new technology, really investing in it, looking for the kind of the innovation at the closest edge of the client work, you can sometimes change your strategy lots and lots of times. But people still are innately, from a human perspective, they like a plan, they like a vision, they like to know where they're going and how they're going to get there. So it was about creating that vision and writing it down, and then being really consistent in who's driving it, how we're going to get there, and what are the different levers that we can pull, not just in pitches, but like you say, in the proposition, in the pipeline, prospecting, and bringing that all together and having that roadmap where everybody feels like, I know where I'm going. And that, I think, then really brought the agency together around something which was much bigger than just winning individual pitches.
Yeah, and obviously being a CEO, sort of new business is still your business, but you weren't the person to orchestrate it day to day. Did you have a plan, or did you kind of work it out as you went along?
I think I did have a plan, and then, like I said, I realised I had to unlearn a lot of things that I thought were going to be the plan. So taking on the best of what I'd learned over my last sort of 25 years in media, but then also absorbing and working really closely with this next generation of amazing talent at Brainlabs who have always approached problem solving in a different way. We talk about intention. We're very intentional at Brainlabs. That means that we are happy to get in with clients and workshop with them live in the room in a way that is less manicured sometimes than I think than some of the other agencies that I've worked with. And we're okay at failing. We test and learn, we iterate, we experiment. And that, I think, was something that I thought I could bring into the plan, which I probably hadn't thought about before. I've been working on these big stages and everything is rehearsed to within an inch of its life. The plan actually can change quite quickly if you really listen to the clients in the room rather than thinking you've already got the answer in front of you. So plan to a certain extent, but the plan changed.
No, absolutely. I think some agencies underestimate the power of a strong proposition. And some agencies overcomplicate it, and it can end up sounding very similar to other agencies. And we live in a world now where many people are talking about being AI-driven, technology-led, with brilliant people. How are you guys carving out a specific proposition for Brainlabs in what can sometimes be seen as a very commoditized market?
I agree with you. I think propositions need to be really simple, really clear, really easy to understand, and if you have to explain it in 5, 6, 7 different ways, it's not a strong proposition because you're probably trying to create something for someone else which is a white space. It's like, oh, it's over there. No one's doing that, so we'll say that we do that. And then it becomes aspirational. It becomes something that's not really true for you. And if it's not true for you and true for your people, if you then try and talk about it more broadly in marketing or in pitches, clients can see through it. They think it's just a slogan, or it's, you're trying to sound different. So for me, when we went in and we talked about what do we really stand for, it was about going back to the root of why we existed in the first place, why we were started, and actually what we are about when we are doing our very best work, when we're having really joyful conversations with our clients, when we're having fun in our work. That is the best of Brainlabs, and that's what is the kind of lightning in a bottle, and that's part of what I think the proposition then becomes, and how you articulate that when you're doing your best work for your people, but also for your clients. If your people feel it, they can sell it, they will absolutely live and breathe it in the room. So for Brainlabs, it's all around innovation. We talk about ourselves being an innovation company that happens to plan and buy media. We talk about being an innovation playground because we are a playful agency, not frivolous with our clients' budgets at all, but playful in how we come up with solutions and therefore how we iterate on those solutions quickly. Like you say, everybody's talking about technology and agentic workflows and processes, but the way that we can vibe code, the way that we can build things not through a developer team, but through the people that actually work on the client's business, on their BAU, that's when the magic happens. So we're really trying to wrap that all up into something really simple and clear for clients to buy, but for our people to be able to live every day in part of their work.
It's interesting. We work with a number of agencies, and on the outside, they may appear to be very different. But every agency is unique. And I think the challenge is agencies often try and articulate what they think the outside wants to hear, which then is disingenuous, doesn't come across right, rather than thinking, who are we? What's distinct and unique about us, and trying to articulate that.
I agree. And I think when people in the company are able to deliver on what they know is true for them and the best work, that's when they show up in a way which is unique and believable. So we have invested a lot of money, a lot of time, resource, energy into all of the different tools and working out which ones are going to be the best for us and best for our people to be able to create what's next, invent what's next, and do that in a way that is faster and easier and more relevant to our clients than all of our competitors. Now, obviously, I'm not working in a lot of these competitor environments, so we have to then show the proof points on that. We can't just talk about it and have it as slogans on a slide or in a creds deck. When we show up in workshops, when we show up in client meetings or in pitches, we have to deliver that speed, that velocity in terms of the kinds of tools that we're building in days and weeks, not months and potentially even like a year, which I think some of our slower counterparts are not being able to deliver as quick as us.
There's a colleague that both of us know very well, Toby Roberts, who once gave me a brilliant articulation of a good proposition, and it was called the consequential test. And he said, it doesn't really matter what the words are, but it's because I believe in this, I will do this, and I won't do that. And a good proposition is not just about a story. It should be, your distinct position in your market. It's what you say in your marketing, the people you hire, the technology you build, and how you go into a pitch. It should be so easy to drag through all of these through the consequential test, and that in itself is the power of a good proposition.
Yeah, 100%.
The evidence is pretty clear that if you have prospected a client, you are 3 times more likely to win it than one that comes in cold to you. Most agencies still sit there though and wait for either a consultant to come to them or a client to send them to info at rather than going out. How are you guys approaching strategic long-term prospecting?
So I think there's 3 different elements that we're really doubling down on at the moment. The first is having a really clear ICP, so knowing who to prospect in the first place. And we've worked together a little bit on that. So making sure that the kinds of clients that we know are going to really thrive working with us and vice versa, and making sure that we are really targeted on that list and those kinds of clients. Once we've got that, our marketing engine is strong. We have a team in the US, but we also have a very targeted marketing strategy from the UK as well. making sure that all of those communications are consistent, making sure that they're human, making sure that they're very clear and absorbable, but then not waiting, like you say, for then someone to get in touch with us, being really intentional about our outreach, our events. We work with all of our partners, whether that's Google, Meta, TikTok, etc., to make sure that we are creating events and moments where we can, again, show the proof points, not just the claims, but show them live the difference and the distinctiveness about Brainlabs and why they should care and why they should therefore get in touch with us. Then when we start to get those kind of warmer leads, one of my favourite things to do is like doing a proper workshop. It's like, we know you're not probably pitching right now, but we'd love to invite you in just for a discussion, just to show you a little bit about who we are. We did that recently with a very big luxury brand. We called it a flirt. And it was really, really fun to see how they were slightly surprised about what Brainlabs was about, kind of dispelling potentially, maybe what they'd heard previously, and really showing them live the difference in terms of how we approach building the new technology, innovating and creating solutions for clients, which are really going to deliver that growth. And then we do a try before you buy as well. So all of this before an official RFP might land, we do a lot of pilots. And because we're much more of a performance-based agency, we will say, let's do a little test for a month, 2 months, and we tie it to outcomes. And you don't have to pay if you don't think that we've delivered or if we don't hit the targets. And they can see that difference then as well. So there's a stepped process of getting closer and closer to the point where they're actually almost working with us before they're even working with us. And we found that to be really successful in recent times.
And you've systemised each of those 3 stages. I always find it surprising how everybody knows they should be doing it, but when a pitch lands, it's the first thing that drops off the radar, because we always talk about the closest possible danger. It's like, well, I've got a pitch now, I'll get back to that. And it becomes very sporadic in the end. But by the sounds of it, when you've systemised that and it's part of the foundational work that you do, it continues going even when pitches are happening.
It does. We could always do more.
Yes,
There's
of course.
always, like you say, the pressure of making sure that the revenue's coming in, that pipe is converting. Having that longer term view to really fill that pipe. That's my job. I do have a big team that can be working on some of the smaller pitches so that I have that longer term view and can kind of see the road ahead. Could we do more? Absolutely. And we do have plans to do more. We've got some brilliant events coming up in the next few months, both from a kind of specific capability, so the future of search and holistic search, how we're bringing social and influencer closer together. But then we've got some other events as well, intermediary events, which we want to make sure that everyone's really clear on what we're looking for and who we want to work with, and vice versa. They can see very clearly, oh, this would be a great pitch for Brainlabs, and start to build that prospecting strategy out more broadly as well.
Yeah. So moving on to the wonderful world of pitching. I spent nearly 15 years in a growth role and was always very conscious that when a big pitch was going on, that was my job, whereas anyone else who was working on the pitch, that was their on top of job. How have you changed the process within Brainlabs about how you pitch to deliver an outstanding pitch to the client, but also allow people the time and space to continue running the clients that they actually have?
It's hard. There isn't a pitch bench. We always talk about it in agencies that we'll have those people, but it never quite works from a numbers perspective. We have really embraced all of the more hacky opportunities through AI. So we have Claude, Enterprise Claude Co-work and Code and Chat on our desktops. And we have tried to automate all of the grunt work, all of the upfront stuff, which means that actually the time is saved for when people come into those kickoff meetings and get into the kind of all-in pitch moment. A lot of the heavy lifting's already been done, which we might have put on their shoulders previously.
Yep.
The second thing that we're doing is we are trying to democratize the pitching process across more people. Again, you and I have worked together on lots of pitches, and from our time at PhD, you always go to the same people because you know they're going to deliver. They're absolutely amazing. They're great presenters. I've really had to learn more recently that because of the volume of pitches that we do, I cannot keep on going to the same people because you're just going to get that burnout. So we've got systemized pitch training for the more junior folks in the agency, arming them with these new agents that we're creating so that they can help them do their work faster and more efficiently, and being really much more about bringing on the next generation of the pitch bench, and making sure that therefore there is more time to do the BAU because there are more people that you can ask to pitch. So you're sort of spreading that load. And then I think the other thing is when pitching feels fun, it doesn't really feel like it's, oh God, I've got to do it on top of my day job. It's actually just part of your day job anyway. You don't separate the BAU from pitching. All of it is just great work, because if you do great pitching, which is really fun, and you get to build new things and create and innovate, you bring that into your BAU anyway. And then that will make your normal day-to-day client work stronger. And then it's more symbiotic, and it doesn't feel like there's a wall between them that separates this is the hard stuff and this is the day-to-day stuff. Everything just becomes about inventing what's next, working with great people, learning from new categories and new briefs that come in through pitches that can then really build into the day-to-day. So it feels more nourishing, I guess.
Yeah. I saw a stat the other day that the average agency wins only 22% of their pitches each year. My understanding, you guys are doing a little bit better than this, quite a lot better. Are you finding people are putting their hands up a bit more now than a year ago because they're seeing the success, they want to be part of it?
Absolutely. When I first got there, our conversion rate was probably around that number.
Yeah.
We're now much more at 50%. We've got a plan that's going to get us up to 75, which I know is ambitious, but I do believe we can do it. And it's an old adage, when winners win, they win more. And they win more, they can't help it. The confidence builds, and therefore everybody starts to go, I want to be a part of that. I want to be seen with, the biggest wins and create that, or be part of that momentum and part of that pride that you get when you're on a roll, when you start to build that win rate. There's a couple of other more tactical things that we've done as well, though. We've first of all done something called the Growth Greatest Hits, which we've just had our first one, and we've got our next one next month, where we invited a recent win client, and we asked them to tell them, why did you pick Brainlabs, and talk about it to the whole agency. Because sometimes you win a big pitch, you do a couple of slides in the town hall, and someone still doesn't really feel, I don't really understand, it looks nice, it looks great, you built that tool or you created that answer which no one else thought of. But to hear it live from the client, again, people were really leaning in. It was a really nice fireside chat. Having the agency see and understand from a client why it was the best that they saw on that day, why they really wanted to work with us and are really excited now to build what's next. That is also a moment where the rest of the agency can start to feel a bit more involved. And we've got loads of hand raisers off that going, okay, great, I want to be part of the next one. So that's a bit more of a tactical one, but it's certainly something that we're seeing is being really helpful in asking for more help in the agency.
It does feel like you are consciously trying to build a culture of growth, so it doesn't just sit within your team. I know lots of agencies, new business, growth, just kind of sits over here, and almost if a pitch is the best articulation of what an agency can do, it has to be shared with the rest of the agency, because someone will go, oh, I want one of those, or my client wants one of those. So it's commendable. It's great to see that you guys are doing it, because it's one of the best learning things you can give to your people when they're still not doing it.
Yeah, I agree.
So Ali, obviously you and I have worked together for a number of years at PhD, and we've done a bit together at Brainlabs. And the one thing I know about you is you bring people on the journey. You love building a team. Your team is very loyal to you. They work hard for you. How do you do this? How do you build this cohesion of a team and people that will maybe work disproportionately hard for the task that they're given?
So when I arrived at Brainlabs, like I said, I had a great team, a big team. I definitely felt that they needed a little bit more direction. They were very good. In fact, the practitioner level knowledge of some of their product understanding around search and SEO blew my mind a little bit, certainly versus where I come from. And they're generalists, they're a growth team. But what I think they lacked was a sense of cohesion, a sense of why. Why are they doing this? It can't just be about driving revenue for the company. Everybody earns a salary. Everybody is trying to win and hit targets. But you don't walk around 12 months after hitting a KPI going, oh, I hit that goal. You've got to have the difference between happiness and fulfillment. You can feel fulfilled at work every day, but that fulfillment has to come from a sense of purpose. So what we did is we went back to basics around what is the why of the growth team, and then more broadly in the agency, our why. But starting with that team, and it was around unlocking innovation, doing that systematically and bringing on the next generation of growth for our people through ideas and through our clients. Having that sense of understanding of why we were coming into work and what good looks like suddenly allowed everybody to know what to say yes to, what to say no to, what things to try and do in the pitches or in their outside of the pitch work, and being really clear who was on track around those different things, so that it felt like teamwork. Like I said, they had been lone wolves slightly, and now it was around we're a team and we've got a shared sense of where we're going and a vision set for that, and having that roadmap set out around all the different elements that we talked about: proposition, pipeline, pitching. And people have got different skills. People love doing different things. I'm a big believer on not trying to make people do things that they don't enjoy. When you're doing something that you love and that you understand why it's bigger than the day-to-day, that's when you get people going the extra mile. You get that discretionary effort, and that is what really helps win and grow.
Yep. I once heard a CEO say the definition of a good leader nowadays is not the person that stands at the front of the room and sells, is not the person that solely sets the strategy on their own. It's the person that looks after and inspires people to achieve more than they think they could ever achieve. And I think you probably embody that. So well done.
Thank you very much.
You can't have a conversation in media today without hearing those two letters, AI, or talking about technology. And you talked about it at Brainlabs, using some of your kit to automate those sort of repetitive tasks. How else are you using it in pitching in the growth perspective to try and, I guess, either accelerate your capacity to pitch or accelerate your ability to do brilliance out of a pitch?
There have been lots of agents and skills, Claude skills, that we've been building. One of my favourite was built by one of my team. We call him Ralph. And Ralph is like one of those really mean outside eyes. So when some of our more smaller pitches come in and they're actually run by the practice teams rather than by growth specifically, we give them a virtual growth person. And Ralph will sit there, read the brief, look at your first articulation of the brief behind the brief, or the map or the narrative arc for the pitch, and we'll start to pick holes in it. And it's been one of the most successful things, a very tactical thing to do from a growth perspective. But something that we know is already accelerating and creating better responses where growth can't always be on every single pitch. More broadly, though, in terms of technology for the agency outside of growth, but just broader proposition about what we're doing, there has been a real investment in making sure that it's not just about the efficiency drivers, because everybody's doing that. I think we're probably doing it a bit faster because of the level that we've invested, but everybody will catch up, right? And we have that competitive advantage maybe for 6 months. It's about the stuff in front of us, not the efficiency behind us, that actually I think is going to be the real game changer. Not talking about efficiencies, but actually revenue generative. And that's what clients want. That's what our PE backers want. That's where they want to see the growth come from. So what are the tools that we're building that are actually going to deliver different results faster, jumping on the competitive advantage, and always being that kind of at that pioneering edge of innovation. And then again, that will be caught up and again, and you'll always have this kind of window. So we are really looking at making sure that we're building the stuff for everything behind us that is less interesting and is just the grunt work that we don't want to do and is taking up time, but also building those more kind of scaled or enterprise level tools that will deliver different results, whether it's in search or whether it's in SEO or when it's, holistically bringing them together. In fact, we've just done that for a recent pitch for a current client that we work with, where we have one scope but not the other between search and SEO. Actually, building a holistic search optimizer and creating something which we could only do now because of AI, because of the way the data can be read so much more quickly versus humans that would have to sift through all of these different types of data formats, and creating a dashboard and an intelligence optimization tool that can actually start to make different decisions and hold or spend in the different channels depending on what they're bidding against and the keyword strategy, etc., which is super exciting, especially how we will also be able to bring that to life in the storytelling using HTML versus slides, which are quite static, and actually so it's showing that this is a real tool that can be used immediately on clients' work. So lots of different opportunities that we're seeing.
From the outside, it seems that you're loving it. It seems that Brainlabs is on a roll. So a year on, how are you feeling?
I'm having a lot of fun. I don't know about you, Patrick, but I definitely feel we've both been in this industry a long time we've had a lot of fun together.
Yeah.
Bringing back the fun and bringing back the joy of what we do and making sure that it is something that we're always looking forward to on first thing on a Monday morning, and not worrying about potentially doing a bit of work on the weekend because actually it just brings you joy. That's what it's been like. And that's not to say that it hasn't also been frustrating in some areas, challenging, learning a new language, working with new people, different structures and ways of working and processes. But what's been so fun is there are no rules that can't be broken at Brainlabs. I think that's probably true at indies more generally. We're much braver, I think, at being able to rip up things and create what's new, what's next, and embrace it, and not throw everything out. Obviously, keep learning and take the stuff that does serve us forward, but just unshackle ourselves from the stuff that doesn't serve us. And that has been, just super fun.
Breath of fresh air. Yeah, it does feel there's a massive groundswell of energy in the indies at the moment. Everyone has this real can-do attitude. They feel like they're an alternative to the big players. I'm not saying they're better or worse, but they're giving clients a real alternative now.
The times that I've had working, I've worked holdco side, indie side, client side, creative agency, that's how long I've been around. I agree that there's no right or wrong, better or worse. They're just different. But I think sometimes different and change is good, and it can give you a new lease of energy. And that's why I think this is the right place for me right now.
Excellent. So before we go, we have one last gift and a question for you. So when we started 300, somehow we ended up with a mascot, which was the flying goat. I will go into the story about it another day. But what we like to do is, for the guests that we come in, first of all, we like to give you the T-shirt of the flying goat. So that is for you.
Thank you very much.
And to ask you, who has been your goat, your greatest all time, the person that has influenced you in your career more than anyone else?
I'm not allowed to say you.
No, you're not allowed to say it. Well, you can, but you know.
Gosh, that's a difficult question. There's a few people. I'll talk about the one that's probably come to mind the fastest. Probably means it's the right one.
Yeah.
So COVID was a tough time. I've got 3 kids. For some reason, I decided to educate them in French, and then when the school shut, I had to homeschool them in French with Google Translate. It was a tough time running new business in that moment. But my boss, Tim Irwin, I think he was the epitome of leadership through that time. We're so different. I'm a massive extrovert. He's an introvert. The skill sets were quite complementary. I just found that actually learning to be a bit more calm and still, and having still a really steely-eyed kind of competitive point of view on growth is sometimes the way that you can get things done rather than always rushing at things, which sometimes it can feel with my energy that I do. And he's also just one of the loveliest people you will ever meet.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Ali, and thank you for joining us for this episode of 300 Seconds on Agency Growth, and we'll see you next time.